Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you today?
Good.
Good morning. Well, hello, my name is Jen McKenzie, and I am coming to you from Everybody Wins DC. And we are a nonprofit organization that helps create great reading experiences for students like all of you. And so we are the ones that did that great book delivery for you all last week, and we hope you enjoyed some of those books that you received. Did anybody find a new favorite book?
Yeah. Anyone find a book they like? Raise your hand.
Did any of you all find a special note from a volunteer in your book?
Did you guys get those notes?
Ooh.
There were notes in the books?
I haven't seen it yet. You might want to check. Look in those pages and see, because in every book, there's going to be a note from a volunteer who wrote, an encouraging message for you, hoping that you enjoy that book. So today, we're coming to you with a book talk. So this is going to be a moment to share some exciting, inspiring books, and we hope that you enjoy them. And we have two special guests with us today who are coming to us from SixDegrees.org, which is another nonprofit organization that does amazing work with education and literacy and a lot of other really, really great fields. So I want to give our special guests the chance to introduce themselves. So if you wouldn't mind, Miss Stacy and Mr. Kevin, would you introduce yourselves?
Sure thing. I'm Stacy Houston. I work with SixDegrees.org. I'm their executive director. So what that means is I help connect with really incredible organizations just like Everybody Wins DC and other nonprofits at the local community level that are doing really great work. And we try to help them amplify that work. And all that means is we want to get as many eyeballs on what they're doing as possible so that they can continue to get the resources that they need to grow, thrive, and help all of you.
Wonderful.
Oh, my favorite place to read a good book. I like to read a good book outside, typically on a beach or laying by a pool or somewhere really serene and beautiful. Because when I like to read, I like it to be just me and nature.
That's perfect. So how many of you all have had the chance to try reading a book outside before? You raise your hand if that's something you're into. I think it's lovely. It's a great way to relax and really get into the book. So thank you, Miss Stacy. Mr. Kevin, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Kevin Bacon is my name. And many years ago, somebody came up with a silly idea of taking me and the work that I've done as an actor and turning it into a game called The 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. And after I with that silly idea for a while, I just thought about ways that it could turn into something positive. So we started SixDegrees.org, and that's where I met Stacy, who runs SixDegrees.org. I'm really happy to be here. My favorite place to read a book, I think, is on the couch. I like to get on the couch, get a good pillow, take my shoes off, get my feet up, and if I'm really lucky, after I've read that book for a while, it turns into a nap.
Lovely. Thank you so much for being with us today. All right. Well, I want to give our guests the chance to talk about the great books that they're going to introduce today. And we'll have time for you all at Marie Reed to ask some questions, respond to what they're introducing. And also, if you have a favorite book in mind that you would like to share about, at the end of our book talk, we'll have a chance for you to share a book you're really excited about. So keep that in mind as well. All right. So firstly, and here's our little agenda for today. Introduce ourselves. We've already done that. Check that off the list. We'll be sharing about these books. And then, like I said, we will have some time for your questions. All right. So Miss Stacy, take it away to tell us about Firebird.
Thank you. So this is the story I picked, and it's Firebird. It's on the screen, and I also have it right here. So this story is about Misty Copeland. And Misty Copeland is one of the world's most beautiful dancers. Most dancers really start, and I should say most famous dancers, right, that have built a whole career around it, tend to start when they're really young. You know, sometimes 3 or 4 years old, they start taking dance classes, dancing around their house. Well, what makes Misty really special is that she actually didn't start dancing until she was 13. So probably not much older than you guys are right now. And although she started a little later than a lot of dancers, she went on to become the second ever African-American soloist at the American Ballet Theater. And that's one of the best ballet companies in the world. So the reason the book is called Firebird is that's one of her most important roles that she has played to date. She played the lead in a ballet called Firebird, and that illustration on the front page is one of her beautiful poses that is almost surreal, that someone's body can kind of bend in those ways. So this story is really about a young girl that doesn't have a whole lot of confidence. And when she looks around, she doesn't see a whole lot of dancers that look like her. And she doesn't feel like she'll ever be able to be this great dancer that she sees on screens and on plays. And she's a little discouraged. And so what I love about this book is that Misty Copeland kind of comes alongside her story, and she encourages her by telling the reader, the little girl, you know, who she was and how she started a little late in life, and she didn't always fit in everywhere she went. But with hard work and practice, she was able to become this beautiful dancer. And in the end of the story, the little girl becomes a beautiful, graceful dancer as well. So I wanted to read just a little part at the end of the book. There's a little excerpt from Misty Copeland herself. And the very beginning of it says, "I was once a little girl searching for my voice, quiet, scared, unique, yet alive and bright and vibrant. I struggled, caught among 5 siblings, desperate to be noticed. I never felt that I fit in anywhere, not even at home surrounded by my family. My discovery of movement became my saving grace. When I was introduced to ballet, it was like finding the missing piece to my puzzle. I danced my worries and fears away. The beauty of dance is being a part of something that is all of you, from creation to performance. You hold the power of your instrument. That instrument comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. That instrument is your body, soul, and heart. That instrument is you and me." So I just love this book, and I'm actually a mom of 2 little girls. So I'm really excited that as they get older and they can start reading, because they're very, very small, that there's books like this that will encourage them and show them that they can be anything they want to be when they grow up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Stacy. Can you give her a round of applause for that introduction?
And we had several connections. Some people said they also knew that book, so very nice.
Really? There you go. How many of you all have heard of the ballerina Misty Copeland? Can you raise your hand if you've heard of her before? Yeah, she's amazing. I wanted to share one more illustration from the book that Miss Stacy was introducing. The art is really beautiful. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to move on to our second presenter, Mr. Kevin, to talk about the story of John Lewis. So take it away.
Hi, everybody. I chose this book, which is the story of John Lewis. John Lewis was a United States congressman, and he was kind of on my mind because he recently passed away. And there was a lot of things that were said about him, and a lot of beautiful tributes were made to him, and the impact that he had on people and on human rights and on this country. but I didn't know quite enough about him. And that's one of the great things about books, is that you can learn about things in the past. I think that I try to stay as much as I can in the present. Once in a while, if there's something that I want to know about history, it really helps me to understand what's happening now. I know sometimes when I was a kid, well, history is kind of boring because it's so long ago. But as I've grown up, I've realized that learning something about history can really be very helpful in how to appreciate or live life right now in the moment. So that's what I really liked about this book, and that's what I'm often drawn to in terms of history. And I want to just start with the first chapter of this book, only because I knew more about this era, and the current era of John Lewis and John Lewis's uh, fight for freedom, but I didn't know much about him as a little boy, and so this was something that I learned from the book. When John Lewis was a young boy, he was in charge of the chickens on his family farm. He cared for all of them, and he even named them. When he got older, he became a civil rights leader and a U.S. congressman, and he spent most of his life speaking out against injustice. John Lewis was raised in an unfair America. When he was young, black and white people lived separately and unequally. And John spent his life fighting for change, to change that. But he fought peacefully. When people yelled, John stayed silent. When others raised their fists, John lowered his hands. When people yelled out bad words, John sang out freedom songs. It's not easy to stand up for peace, especially when others act with violence. And John knew that fighting for equality was dangerous. He was beaten, he was kicked, he was spat upon, he was jailed more than 40 times, but he still stood his ground. He held on to his belief that people did equally. People around the world watched his bravery, and they joined in to help. And John Lewis never stopped fighting for justice, and he never stopped believing in peace. And there's another chapter that goes on that I won't read, but it's a funny chapter where it talks about how he used to actually talk to his chickens, and he kind of pretended that they were listening to him and hearing his point of view about the world. And that's when he really became a public speaker, was practicing to the chickens. So that made me laugh. And it's a cool book because it has a lot of interesting sort of facts, and it's also got a nice thing at the end of it where you can see what you actually took away from it, and check and see what kind of facts you got from this book, and the understanding of history. And John Lewis used to have something that he called good trouble. And so that's an interesting idea and concept of good trouble. And I like that. And I enjoyed the book very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin. Can we give him a round of applause for that book introduction? Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I agree. I love books that teach you about a time and a place that you didn't experience, but you can learn a lot by reading about it. I had heard the John Lewis story about the chickens because there's another book about him that's called Preaching to the Chickens.
Okay.
That's all about him as a little boy. So thank you for sharing that.
And I know we had a couple of copies of that book on the books that everybody wins sent over. So I think we still have one. So someone might be checking that out today.
Wonderful. So, hey, you all might find this in your classroom or in your library at Marie Reed. Definitely check out these books. All right. With that, I want to give you all, the students, the chance to ask some questions, to respond, to tell us a little bit about some books that you love. So let me get these discussion questions up.
I thought everyone would be running. All right, this is your chance to ask a question. You can share about the book that you chose last week. You can ask Mr. Kevin a question. You can ask Miss Jen. You can ask anyone a question. Oh, you're gonna make me ask questions? No, don't do it. No, come on up. So you're gonna come up, you're gonna speak into here, you're gonna say, hello, my name is.
Hello, my name
No,
is Maxwell.
stand up so they know who they're speaking to.
Oh,
There
my
you
name
go.
is Maxwell. How many years have you been an actor for?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Well, I'm, here's the thing. I'm not so good at math, but I can tell you that I started in 1976. So if you subtract 1976 from
I've been
2020,
an actor for 42 years.
if you say so.
I don't know.
All right, well, you guys, come on down, say your name.
Hello, my name is Jayla, and how old are you?
I'm 60. This is another thing I'm not so good at. I think I'm 63, I think. Yeah, I was born in 1958, again with the math, but at this point, I'm not really counting.
And I know you guys chose some good books last week. We were scrambling, so you can also share what book you read. If you think someone else would enjoy it, you can make a book recommendation.
Hi, my name is Eminette, and I wanted to know if you're retired or not as an actor.
No, I'm not retired. I'm still working. I'm on a TV show called City on a Hill, and I'm still doing, movies. It's a funny thing about being an actor. I mean, you can retire if you want to, but you can also just play old guys. So that's what I'm starting to do.
Thank you.
All right, we have a special guest who wants to ask a question. All right, Mr. Patterson.
How you doing, sir? I'm Mr. Patterson, the Dean of Student Culture. I just want to say it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I was talking to the class this morning about how reading brings out your creative side. And a lot of kids these days are subbing YouTube, watching YouTube clips for reading books. And I just want to know if you can explain to the class how reading brings out your creative side when you do different roles. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, every time I take on a part, it's the job is to try to learn how to walk in another person's shoes. And people think that the first thing that you have to do is learn your lines, but the truth is that that's a very, very small part of it. What you want to do is understand what somebody else's experience is. And a lot of the research that I do comes from reading. So in other words, if I had to play a part of an astronaut and I didn't really know what an astronaut's life might be like, I might read a biography of an astronaut or actually read a book about an astronaut's experience. It's going to be really helpful to me in order to understand how to walk in this other man's shoes. The other part of it is that I have to read scripts, and I read them all the time, and I read them every day, and I read them again, and I read them again, and I read them again, and I find it reading. I don't know what I would do without it.
All right.
Hi, my name is Michael.
Say it loud so they can hear.
Hi, my name is Michael. I was gonna wonder, what movie are you making?
Which movie?
Can you say that again?
What movie are you making?
He's asking, what movie are you making?
Oh, what movie am I making? You know what? I made a movie. I made a few movies. I made one, but they're what we call in the can, meaning that they haven't come out yet. I've got one called I think it's called Rejoice. I've got one called Toxic Avenger coming out. I've got a surprise movie that I can't talk about. I made a movie that my wife directed called Space Oddity, but they're all on their way out.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jaihan. What's the favorite movie you were in?
You know, there's been so many. Gosh, I don't really have a favorite. You know, I'm always kind of thinking about what the next one might be. But yeah, I feel really lucky to have done so many different kinds of movies and work with so many great people. And you know, having I feel like having the job as an actor I feel very, very lucky to have this job. I love it, and I still love it.
Now, our shyness is worn off. We got a lot of folks, so you just tell us when we need to wrap up. All right, say your name.
Hello, my name is Julian, and how many jobs did you have in your whole entire life?
How many different kinds of jobs?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. My first job was working in a warehouse. I would pack up books and put them on trucks and ship them out, and then books would come in. It was a book warehouse. Now that I think about it, it's very apropos. We were packing and shipping books, and then books would come in, and we'd take them out of the boxes and put them on the shelf. So that was my first job. My second job was working as a busboy in a restaurant. Did that for a really long time, and then I eventually became a waiter. So I've been a busboy and a waiter, and sometimes a bartender. And then I started working as an actor, and I also work as a musician. So I've been working pretty much in some kind of job nonstop since I was 17.
Thank you. Right.
Hi, my name's Armi, and what inspired you to start acting?
Oh no!
I think he got disconnected. Here, we will.
Oh, no. Oh, maybe your question will be the one.
I promise we'll make sure that when he comes back, that's the first
All right.
question.
All right. Woo.
Does anyone have a question for Miss Stacy while we're waiting for Mr. Kevin?
I know, and because we had a lot of folks who knew about
Misty
who knew about Misty, knew about Firebird. Does anyone have a question about or want to share the book that they enjoyed? Yeah, go for it.
I have a question. So
Say your name.
my name is Eminette, and you chose Firebird. I wanted to know why did that book? Why did you want to choose that book?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You have a really beautiful name as well. So I chose Firebird because as I was growing up, I didn't see a whole lot of people that looked like me, especially in pages and books that I read, or really in the world of dance and ballet specifically. And my daughter, who's 2.5, likes to walk around the house on her tippy toes. And she loves dancing whenever music comes on. So we really want her to get involved in dance and start experiencing that world. And I think that Misty Copeland is a really good role model. Misty Copeland is not just a beautiful dancer that I think my daughter can see herself in, but she also gives back a lot to the world around her. She does a lot of charity events, and she helps to raise awareness for causes that need help. And in my world, that's really important. So that's why I chose Firebird.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to, Miss Jen, we could take the questions down, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Then it'll be easier just for everyone to see.
Absolutely.
That's okay. Does anyone else want to share a question?
Oh, and Kevin's computer died. He just
Oh no. Okay.
ran out of power. He just texted me.
Oh my gosh. Well, hope that he can rejoin us.
Of course.
Hi there.
All right. Anyone else want to share a question? What's this?
What's your favorite book that you think that?
Speak up. Say it.
What's your favorite book?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I Well, when I was your age, I read a story, I guess like a storyline. They had lots and lots of books called Goosebumps. Do they still make Goosebumps?
Oh, do they? Raise your hand if you love some Goosebumps. We got. Oh my word! This is like universal. All right.
So, so I was obsessed with Goosebumps, and I read Goosebumps all the time. In fact, I probably had 30, 40 different Goosebump books. And it got to the point that my parents said, well, I guess if you're reading, it's okay for us to spend money on books. But I had to start finding used bookstores to go to so I could get books for like 50 cents or $1.25. And then I would trade my Goosebump books with friends. But I loved R.L. Stine and reading.
All right.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, now the line is long again. I'm sorry. So again, give us a.
We can take about 5 more minutes and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you for the time check. All right, we got 5 minutes. So you're gonna say your name. Go.
Okay.
Mimi had a question right before we lost.
My name is Armi, and I just wanted to know what inspired you to act.
Oh, okay. I remember this question. When I was a little kid, my favorite box of costumes that my mom had taken old clothes and thrown them in a costume box. So what I really liked to do was put a costume on and pretend to be somebody else. And I didn't even know what being an actor was, but I finally realized that that's what I needed to do with my life was to be a professional pretender.
Okay.
Well, you ask him. Say it loud.
I said, actually, can you still dance?
Can I still dance? Well, my wife thinks I can. Sometimes if we're sitting around in our kitchen and we're playing music and something comes on that we really like, we'll still dance together. I don't think I can't move like.
We may have prepped last week by watching a YouTube clip of a certain dancing movie. All right, come on up. Ask your name. Say your.
Hello. My name is Annalise, and I want to ask, you were mentioning some movies that are coming out. Which one do you think is going to be most exciting?
Oh wow. I guess I'm really excited about the one that's called Space Oddity, and the reason is because my wife is an actress, and we've been married for 32 years, I think 32 years, something like that. And she was really focused on acting, and then all of a sudden she just kind of made a career shift and decided that she wanted to direct. And it's something that I've been encouraging her to do for a long time. And she's a really good director, and this is the second thing that she's directed me in. And I don't have a big part, but I have a good part, so I'm really excited about that one.
All right. So.
Hi, my name is Amira, and I want to know how many movies have you made?
I don't really know, but I think it's around 100.
Okay.